morning, besties. Yeah, you get to do it all the time. I wanted to say good morning.
All right. Good morning, besties, and welcome to Manic Moms, where we bring you a little bit of positive inspiration and vibes to your day.
You want to try that again?
Fuck.
A little bit of inspiration and positive vibes to your day. There we go.
She's got it. I know.
So we have a really awesome topic today. I think I say that about all of them.
They all are awesome.
Yeah, but we get equally excited every week for the next one. Today we're talking about parenting ADHD, which is a really, I don't want to say sensitive topic for me, but it in of itself was pretty traumatic. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to say some big news.
Yay!
We are now expanding beyond YouTube, and we have finally made it. Well, I say finally, like we've been doing this forever.
She's been trying to do this.
Yeah. But we have made it onto Anchor.fm, which also puts us on Spotify.
Whoop whoop!
Yes, that was probably the most exciting moment for me this year. And we are also listener supported through anchor.fm/manicmoms/support, which you can find that link under our Spotify description. So if you just go onto Spotify and find Manic Moms, no space, you'll be able to look that up and hit that link to show some love.
Come on, show us some love.
I like to think we're pretty lovable. So we have a lot to say today. I think we're going to have a hard time trying to squeeze it all into our 30 minutes that we try and shoot for. So let's get right into it.
Absolutely.
So I think the best place to start is just kind of what led up to diagnosis. So I only have one ADHD, and that was a whole mess of itself. And you have two.
Yes.
Which two?
Dominic, who is my 14-year-old, and Baby J, who's the 9-year-old.
Oh my God, I would have never guessed that Jalen was ADHD. Why didn't you tell me?
That one right there.
So for Adrian, whatever led up to his diagnosis, I know I say it's a mess, but I feel like a mess is not a big enough word. It never really crossed my mind that he would be diagnosed with ADHD up until it became such a serious issue. I thought he was just this really wacky, kooky kid with all this energy, but this energy at some point started to manifest into violence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was the cutest thing how he would run all over the place and be like, look at how fast I can run. I'm the Flash. I got super zoom. That's what he called it.
Super zoom.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we would just show people how fast he could run by show me your super zoom. Super zoom.
Say that 10 times fast.
Right. Chris is going to throw another sound effect in there for me for stumbling over my words. But so once he got into preschool, it started with just the teachers calling me saying he's not listening. He's put himself in the corner and he's refusing to come out. Or he's starting to hit the teachers, kick the teachers. At the time he was 3, and I just was thinking like, this was something that he might grow out of, or this was something that was just learned behavior, because at that time was right after his dad and I split.
Which is traumatic in itself.
It is. And there was a lot of physical abuse between the two of us. I will say he was not the only guilty party there, so I'm not over here just talking shit about him. But so I thought maybe it was just a lot of learned behavior there, and I thought that I wasn't being hard enough on him and like teaching him the right thing. And so he took that 1 year, which he would have been 4, He took a year out of preschool to just spend his last year out of school with me while Bella was in kindergarten. And so I thought everything was fine. And then he gets into kindergarten, and the entire kindergarten year, he had a teacher that sat with him, Miss Frazier, bless her heart. That woman was an angel. But it was mostly controlled because somebody was able to be there with him the entire school day. But once he got into first grade, it really became hard. Like, the first half of the school year, he was still, like, kind of coming out of his shell a little bit. But once he came out of his shell, it went from just saying mean things to throwing chairs and flipping desks, trying to stab teachers with pencils. Like, it was wild. I was getting called every day to the school, and that's when we had a parent-teacher conference. All of this happened within, like, a span of a month.
Oh, wow.
This whole, like, what's the word? Sudden. This whole sudden outburst. It happened all within, like, a month. And so we had a meeting with the teacher and school counselor, principal, everybody. And that's when they said that they think he was showing signs. And it should have been so much more clear to me because his father is severely ADHD.
Well, then also, like, a lot of people like to chalk it up. Oh, he's a typical little boy. You know, he's running around. He's busy. This is normal. So, of course, you think this is normal.
Right. So I ended up doing the Vanderbilt assessment, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And he actually got diagnosed with ADHD and ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder. Which actually I come to find out not too long ago is something that develops from untreated ADHD. So that kind of went untreated for a while. Actually, not kind of. It did. It was, why was I sugarcoating that? I don't know. But it was untreated for a while because I just didn't want to be that parent and be like, oh, my kid's on meds. I don't know why I thought that was such a terrible thing.
Well, you know, it's a lot of pressure from society. And, you know, we are both the kind of moms that we understand that not every household is the same. Not every parent thinks the same way. And, you know, where some parents would, they don't believe in medicating. Some parents don't even believe in ADHD. And that's fine. They're allowed to have that. So I think what moms like us, where we have triggers, we're healing, we have trauma. So we're people pleasers. And we really care about what other people think.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, that has made it difficult in our parenting where we weren't able to stop and say, in my mind and in my heart, this is how I feel. And I feel as though with my child, this is what I want to do. And that was to try to start the medication, to try to start the interventions. But instead, because of our trauma, we were too busy concerned about what society would want us to do with our children.
Yeah, I have actually gotten some backlash since getting him medicated.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, all he needs is a boot in his ass. But these are like middle-aged old white men who are telling middle-aged old, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's older than me, okay? But those people are still stuck in the whole just beat your kids and it'll fix them or whatever that is supposed to mean.
Right. And honestly, like really quick on that one is I've been there and I have been the very hard parent and did the spankings and did the timeouts until their knees were shaken and did the whole squat thing. And honestly, it didn't work for my family. So,
well, that's what we were doing in between, like, the whole preschool stage up until I decided to do the gentle parenting thing, or discovered it because I didn't know that was a thing even.
Right.
I was
an
raised.
option?
Yeah, I was raised. Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Right.
And so before I discovered that gentle parenting was a thing, that's what we were doing, and I learned very quickly that I was reacting out of my own anger and intolerance to his behavior. And it honestly would just make the matters worse. It escalated to the point where he would be screaming in his room, like trying to hit his head on the wall and
Right.
like punching himself in the face. And I would have to have him sit in my lap. I would put my legs over his legs, and I would have to have his arms crossed in front of him just to get him to stop so he wouldn't hurt himself.
Right.
And having...
It's almost like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Right.
Because you have triggers of your own.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of parents, when their first reaction to a child doing something that they think is disrespectful, their reaction is most of the time a abusive reaction, whether it's yelling or hitting. It's violence, and that's because of their own triggers.
So this whole time I thought just his defiance was me not being strict enough on him, so it was always trying to find new punishments. So it was the spanking, taking things away. At one point we took everything out of his room except for his bed. And that was so much more damaging than I expected.
Yeah. Because then it's like in a child that has ADHD in their world, it is physically impossible for them to do certain things. And you have to keep them busy. You have to. Like, there's no two ways about it. You have to stay busy, sir. Because if not, then their mind and their body just gets go, 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 go. And then they find themselves in fucked up situations because they just physically cannot stay calm.
Right.
In better words.
And with all these reactions to his behavior, it ultimately ended up leading him to believe that he was just a bad kid. That he, didn't deserve anything good. This kid became so self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anytime he got in trouble, he would be saying how he knew he was stupid, and he believed that we didn't love him, we didn't even want to keep him. What 5-year-old threatens to run away just because he doesn't feel like he is loved? Because he's in trouble all the time.
Right. And then sometimes, like, as parents, Christina and I are at a point now where we take accountability for some of the things that we used to do in parenting. And we used to not parent, where we're proud now about the way that we parented. And we can openly say that we allowed our triggers and our past trauma to influence the way that we parented, and we reacted to them, and it did instill a worthless sense of being in these children because it was constantly, why are you behaving like this? So now they think, oh, there's something wrong with me. And then you would say, you know better. And then it's like in their head,
but with ADHD, really that doesn't stick as well.
No.
It's because I think it's the impulse control.
Yes. A lot of it is impulse control.
Yeah.
They don't think. And their brain also goes 10 times faster.
Right.
Than anything else.
So they don't come down to think about what might happen if they do this or whatever. It's just, I think this, I'm going to do this.
Right.
And so you could tell them a million times, don't do this. If their brain thinks do this, it's going to do it. Like, there's no...
There's no filter to slow it down.
Right. But I didn't understand ADHD. I thought it was just, goofy, silly, hyper. I didn't understand the brain chemistry of it all, and how everything works, like how those gears are moving so much faster.
Right.
And
a lot of people don't understand because, one, it doesn't happen to them personally, or two, they're never around it.
Right.
They haven't been around a child that truly has ADHD. And I've had a lot of people that they're like, no, it can't be that bad or whatever. And then when they come and they spend one day with Jalen unmedicated, then they're like, oh my God, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally see, like, it's not a behavioral, like, I'm not doing enough to teach them.
Right.
This is a legitimate wiring issue that they have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to circle back to the accountability. Like you said, it was all triggers. And so these things would trigger me, and I would react out of my anger. And then, like, I might feel a little bad, but nothing in me would ever say, you need to go apologize to your child for the way you reacted.
Oh yeah,
Because,
and especially our age group.
Right.
There's no apologizing to your kid.
No, you don't question the adult. You don't, the adult's always the one that's right. That's what I believed.
Right.
Like, I'm mom, and what I say goes no matter what.
Right.
And that's not really how it should be.
Right.
But that's...
Because, again, we're modeling for these children. And how are these kids supposed to learn to take accountability? And how are they supposed to learn to apologize when they're wrong if we don't show them how to do it?
Which I am really struggling right now with teaching. Because how many times have I called you and been like, I just cannot get Adrian to understand that I did not make him do this action or this reaction.
Accountability is a hard thing to swallow for anybody.
I think it was the other day, I said something about how he was making a lot of messes that day, and he really got pissed off by that statement and goes in his room and throws his book bag. And I go in there and say, we can't react this way. He said, well, you made me. I said, I did not grab your hand and make you throw this book bag. You chose your reaction to what I did, or to what I said.
Right.
And we go in circles about those kind of things a lot. But this whole diagnosis and adventure, I'll call it an adventure, and getting into the medication, it really was what made me realize that I needed to find a new way of parenting.
Right. Right. And especially when you're doing one thing for so long and it's not working, you have to evaluate, okay, what can I do different now? Mm-hmm. And I've noticed personally with myself, Dominic being 14, and he was diagnosed at a young age, like Adrian as well. And of course, when he got diagnosed, all the way up into about, I would say 2.5, 3 years ago, I parented one way. And so switching from that toxic parenting into this more enlightened, gentle parenting, I have noticed a huge difference. And then with Baby J, he was diagnosed young as well, but he is a whole different realm, which we'll get into. But at first, I was also toxic parenting, reacting in my own trauma, reacting in my own triggers, trying to parent based off of conditioning. And once I slowed down and I said, whose kid is this? I'm going to parent the way that I want to parent. And I'm going to remove my triggers and my conditioning. I've noticed a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Completely different in just the way that you parent. And also, it's also a mindset as well. And it's also understanding ADHD. And it's also understanding that mental disorders are real. And once you have a compassion for them and you start to understand them, then it's a lot easier. It truly is a lot easier.
Back to your, like, whose parent is this? I did actually face a lot of opposition from his dad, as far as, like, medicating and anything along those lines, because he still believed, as he says, beat the shit out of him. That's not what happened. Disclaimer.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, it's a figure of speech, but that he still believed that spanking was the way to go, or timeout. Good luck trying to put an ADHD kid in an effective timeout.
It's not happening.
No,
it's not happening.
No corner is gonna hold that child. But he still believed that was what was gonna fix the issue, and I would always say, "But look at you. Did that ever work for you?"
And people think that just because, like, you have a job and you have a house that you're successful and that there's nothing wrong. I came out okay, and it's like, are you really though? Like, go on the inside. Are you really though?
I mean, I have gotten permission to tell this story from his dad, just because he is a different person now. He's fantastic. He's doing wonderful. But his dad was in and out of prison from the time, juvie prison, jail, from the time he was, I think, 12 up until maybe about 10 years ago. Which was, like, right before I met him.
Yeah. A lot of that, I believe, is, like, struggling with the impulse control.
Exactly.
Because once from a kid, having impulse control is throwing my toy or slamming my door. And then as an adult, impulse control is you can't keep your hands to yourself.
Assault battery.
Or, oh, look at this car. I really want this. I'm going to take it.
Right.
Kind of thing. Now you have Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
We're not standing in timeout no more.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, honestly, if you were to listen to some of his stories, they are a bit entertaining, being as they're in the past, Right. It's funny after the fact, but...
when somebody takes accountability,
right,
it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
And then you can say, this is how I was, but I've grown, and this is moving forward. This is what we're doing.
And, no, he's been very well behaved. So we got to give him all the credit in the world for all the growth he has made. But
so you guys now, are y'all, like, on the same, because having, like, the same page as far as parenting, and I want to say broken home, but it's not broken, but in a separated home is so important. So is that something that you guys have been able to accomplish?
Well, once we got past the agreement to medicate, because his dad, Richard, just to stop calling him his dad, his name is Richard, he did not want me to get him medicated because he felt like he was a guinea pig with medications when he was younger. But in the last 30 years since, like, he was going through that and Adrian going through that, a lot of advances have been made in the medications and stuff. So I basically had to lay out all the information. This is what I'm getting from the school. This is what I'm dealing with at home. And this is why I believe that we really need to medicate him.
Right.
And a lot of it, the part that was most concerning to me was the self-deprecation. Because I think the saddest moment of my life was Adrian got his first suspension, and he came up to me as I'm on the phone talking to my aunt, because I would call her a lot about, like, parenting questions. And he walks up to me and says, "Mommy, can you please just kill me?" And I told my aunt, I said, "I'll call you back." And I immediately called the doctor. And
you know what I see? I see that children get frustrated with themselves, rightfully. They want to do good. They want to do the right thing. They want people to love them. And when they have moments like this and then people are so hard on them, they then start to hate themselves. And yeah, so that's when us as parents, we have to step in and say, what can I do to help my child?
And he genuinely felt like his life was not worth living because it was always filled with anger And that was the moment that I was like, it's got to change. We're done. We're done with the way we're doing it now. And
you know, like you were saying, like how Richard felt like he was like a guinea pig for medication. That it does suck, but
Adrian's
in my
on his
opinion,
third.
yes, in my opinion, you have to find what works best for you. You know, there's no blood test to say, okay, well, you're ADHD or you have depression, and this is going to be the medication that's going to be best for you.
Right.
So you don't really have a choice but to try. Like with everything, you have to try one thing. If it doesn't work, okay, let's go to the next. Mm-hmm. And yes, the process sucks, and it is what it is. But moving forward, like for like a more seasoned parent, I've noticed like with Dominic, it took us all the way up until about 2 years ago to find the right medication for him. So, and the thing for him is a lot of ADHD medications, they're very powerful. They work throughout the day. Then they have this horrible drop. And when they drop at the end of the day, some kids can handle it. They go to sleep, fine. They get up the next day, they're full force. Other children, like Dominic, could not handle it. And the drop was so hard for him that he would still wake up the next morning and he would be so tired still and so overwhelmed that I had to basically drag him out of the bed, down the stairs, everything, get him dressed myself at 12 years old, 13 years old. And it was so difficult. And I finally had this one doctor that was like, this new medication has come out and it's basically like an extremely slow release. He takes it at nighttime rather than in the morning. And I have noticed my son flourish on top of therapy, but with the right medication. He gets up every morning. There's no issues. Like I used to have to stand over him every morning. And now he, is more independent. He can do everything by himself. The slow release medication starts to give him a boost first thing in the morning. And then it keeps him leveled, calm throughout the day. And usually if he doesn't take his medicine, about 9:30 at night, he gets the zoomies. And that's when you can really see the ADHD come out in this teenager who is like hurtling over the couch and running down the hallway and opening everybody's door and being silly, which is great and fantastic. But now it's 11 o'clock at night, bro. And I need you to calm down. So with medication, to me, I feel like, yes, you are kind of going to be a scapegoat for a little while, but at the end, it's worth it. And I've noticed that with Dominic as well, the older he gets, the more he's able to find coping mechanisms, the more he's able to find ways to release a lot of that pent up energy. Because when a kid sits at a desk all day long, mm-hmm. because that's what they want you to do, you're going to automatically have pent-up energy. Now let's put ADHD in that spectrum as well.
Right.
So now we're swinging from the ceiling fan at 2 o'clock and we're wondering why. So Jalen was a different story. Jalen has been difficult from the time I went into labor with him. And he's always been, now that he's older, I can say that it was because even as a baby, he needed to be busy. And if he wasn't busy, he was screaming. And now, especially through the gentle parenting, I'm able to talk to him. We're able to reason and not just react out of violence. And really get down to it. Okay, Jalen, you're feeling frustrated right now because, and ADHD is very frustrating. He wants to do right. He really does, but he struggles. And I think that's where Adrian's self-sabotage comes from, is that he has a big heart. He really wants to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say, since we did take that step to medicate, and also he's in counseling as well, the combination of the two, he is so different. I was so worried about him losing that silly, quirky
Adrian-ness.
Yes. He's got his own uniqueness. But I was so worried about losing that. All it did was it made room for him to do that without getting in trouble.
Right. And I also see, like, with the medication, they're able to slow down their brain.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to verbalize what they're feeling more.
Like wanting
their
to be
needs.
homeless.
Right. Because he wants pizza for free. So, yeah. But another thing as well with the ADHD is us as parents with our own trauma and parenting through it, it gets hard. Yeah. It gets hard. And like as a mom, like you literally just go manic all the time because you feel like you're struggling as a mom and you failed
and you just want the instant fix of them just shaping up and doing the right thing all the time.
And also I used to struggle with this. I have this vision for my children and this is what I want them to be. Mm-hmm. And I had to let go of that. And I had to understand that my kids are themselves.
Which we covered in episode 2.
For individuality. Yeah. And letting go of that need for control. And just letting them be themselves. And understanding. Did you get the episode wrong?
I did. It was episode 1 because we had that pilot episode, so it really throws me off. Whatever.
But you know, like letting go of that idea of what I want them to be and understanding that not all kids are going to be the same. Even looking at 2 children that are completely different in my household, they both have the same diagnosis and it's completely different for the both of them. Where Jalen, he can sit at a table, sure, and play Monopoly with us. But I sent you a video not too long ago where literally, for about 45 minutes, we paid attention, Jalen bounced.
He just vibrated.
Up and down, in the chair, bam, 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 bam. And he didn't skip a beat, and it was exhausting just to sit and watch. But I had to remember, take a deep breath, calm down. This is normal for him. What is he doing that is really harming me? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Let him be. He's not hurting anything. And if somebody says, oh my God, just sit still. Why? Why is this a problem? Let him bounce. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not tearing the chair up. He's bouncing. You know, you have to learn to control your emotions as well as a parent.
At least his was silent. Adrian has those constant squealing. I cannot wait for him to hit puberty just so his voice is not so high pitched.
It's like a little baby T-Rex in the other room sometimes.
It's constant squealing or it's just a constant noise.
And you know, honestly, you know what in my mind, this is what I contribute that to, is that he's got all of this running in his body, all the energy, all of the thoughts in his mind.
And it manifests.
And yes, he needs to release, and it just, yeah. And that's how he gets it out.
But I mean, also sometimes with that, you will hear his musical talent. So Adrian is a fantastic beatboxer. And self-taught, I guess he just like watched a few videos on YouTube and was like, oh, I can make those sounds too. And now he's constantly making these beats and sounds and noises, and he can actually take these and transfer them to the drums.
Nice.
Which is fantastic.
So let's use this.
Right. Those I don't mind as much, but the squealing, if you don't I've tried to just see how long he'll go till he stops. He'll go forever.
Yes.
And so I'm just like, okay, we're inside. Let's bring that down.
Right.
But
this is a real thing right now.
And that's something that triggers me. Also really triggers my husband as well. Is just the constant noises. We both like quiet. And so we have to stop and think like, under a certain volume is okay.
Right.
Because we can close the door, we can just go somewhere else.
One thing that I say to my kids is we both have to contribute to each other. Like, I'm going to allow you to be you, but I also need you to respect my boundaries. And sure, if you want to scream, that's cool. How can we do this where we're both not losing our fucking minds right now? Mm-hmm. So, and even though that goes back to that, I'm the parent, I'm in charge, blah, blah, blah. whose cojones are bigger here. That really doesn't matter to me in my household. And I say, okay, well, if you feel the need to run up and down my hallways, that's cool because you need to run, but it's bothering me a little bit. So how about we give and take some? I will let you run, but I'm going to need for you to allow me to go in the garage and shut the door so I don't have to be triggered by all that. So
that's fantastic in your house, but in my house, we have paper thin walls.
and your ceilings are so high, everything echoes.
Yeah, and so you can hear somebody whispering in the other end of the house.
Not in my house. Not in mine. You
No.
could be hollering like a banshee and they're not. I'm going to get doorbells. I've decided that I'm getting a doorbell and I'm going to put it in the kitchen and everybody's going to have their own in their bedroom and I'm just going to hit it and
have a little Cinderella
yes.
system.
And that's fine.
I like that.
That's what we're doing. Because my house is really, you can't hear shit. But you can hear somebody running down the hallway. Like the cat. That stomps her feet when she wants attention.
Or girls who walk like so heavy on their heels.
Oh my god. I wonder if that's in their genetics.
I don't know.
Because they both do that really loudly.
I think it was a bird video of, it was a Facebook video of a bird that just like stomps its feet around. And that's just what I think of when they walk.
Yeah.
Just like, you're going to damage your feet somehow doing that. Like, it hurts me. But do you have any more points you would like to make?
I think we kind of covered a lot of it. And also, parents, just know that you're not in this alone. And it's okay to be tapped out. It's okay to put yourself in the closet and shut the door from time to time. ADHD is very overwhelming. You didn't do anything wrong. You're doing just fine. Remember to take a deep breath and remove yourself.
And constantly remind them how much they are loved. Because when they're...
And that you love them for them.
Yes.
And you're not trying to change who they are. You're just trying to help them out. And say, okay, because what it was for me to medicate was when they struggled in school. And Jalen especially, I really pushed really hard for him to not be on medication as long as possible. But when his teacher, who I adored, came to me and said, Felicia, he is in this classroom crying because he wants to do the work. But he just physically and mentally cannot sit down and do this work. But he wants to do it with the other kids. And that to me was enough. I said, fine. My baby wants to do right. He just needs a little bit of help. And it's okay. And in your household, whatever works for you is what works for you. And fuck what anybody else says.
If you don't want to medicate, don't medicate.
Fine.
If you feel like you need to medicate, do it. Pediatricians will really bend over backwards trying to find whatever's going to fit. And if they don't, find a new pediatrician.
Right. Yeah, but I think covering it a lot and just realizing that it's okay. It is okay. And all of this is normal. And reach out for help, moms. It is totally normal to reach out to people and just be like, hey, bitch, I need a break. I need a fucking break. And remove yourself. And everything is going to be okay. The older they get, it's going to be easier. And just stay positive and make sure that you remember that they are a human with feelings as well. And what you're doing now is going to really affect them in the future.
And while you're sitting in that closet trying to decompress because your kid ran on the ceiling, pull out your phone and send us an email.
Tell me like, here I am.
Just be like, listen, bitches, this is what this kid did today. We really want to hear about it. We really want to hear your stories and be able to laugh with you. We'll never laugh at you.
No.
We do enough laughing at ourselves.
And if you guys want, like, I am not going to give parenting advice, but I will give you pointers that have worked for me.
Yes, I would like to be able to start dishing out a little bit of pointers, or even just being able to say, this is your story and this is how we can relate.
Right. And hey, this worked for me. So if you guys have something that, you're struggling with at home and that maybe we could help you with or give you insight, or you see that we've gone through this already and something has worked, just let us know. Send us an email.
That is manicmomspodcast@gmail.com. And I think this is a pretty amazing thing that we actually just did this all in one take.
Because we know a lot about this.
But yeah, this is the first time we've made it through with one take. So I'm pretty proud of us.
Yes.
So I knew we were forgetting something. So we were so excited about how easy we did this episode that we forgot that we don't sound this amazing all on our own.
We sure do.
We have a lot of help from Chris, our audio engineer, who works miracles on our tracks.
He is so talented.
He is, and you can even check out his talent further. If you go on SoundCloud and search him up, it's Vanilla Carrot.
Vanilla Carrot!
The carrot of the vanilla flavor. And we owe him so many thanks for everything he does for us. And with
all right,
that being
guys.
said, stay manic.
Stay manic!
Nailed it. For real this time.